Good morning. It is time for Chapter 7 of the Phantom Tollbooth, and we are on the Royal Banquet. Right this way. Follow us. Come along. Step lively. Here we go, they shouted, hopping from the wagon and bounding up the marble stairway. Milo and Talk followed close behind. It was a strange-looking palace, and if he didn't know better, he would have said that it looked exactly like an enormous book standing on end, with its front door in the lower part of the binding, just where they usually place the publisher's name. Once inside, they hurried down a long hallway, which glittered with crystal chandeliers and echoed with their footsteps. The walls and ceilings were covered with mirrors, whose reflections danced dizzily along with them, and the footmen bowed coldly. "We must be terribly late," gasped the Earl nervously as they reached the tall doors of the banquet hall. It was a vast room of people loudly talking and arguing. The long table was carefully set with the gold plates and linen napkins. An attendant stood behind each chair, and at the center, raised slightly above the others, was a throne covered in crimson cloth. Directly behind, on the wall, was the royal coat of arms, flanked by the flags of Dictionopolis. There's the royal coat of arms. Milo noticed many of the people he had seen in the marketplace. The letterman was busy explaining to an interested group the history of the W. And off in the corner of the Humbug and the Spelling Bee were arguing fiercely about nothing at all. Officer Shrift wandered through the crowd, suspiciously muttering, "Guilty, guilty, they're all guilty." And on noticing Milo, brightened visibly and commented in passing, "Is it 6 million years already? My, how time flies." Everyone seemed quite grumpy about having to wait for lunch, and they were all relieved to see the tardy guests arrive. "Certainly glad you made it, old man," said the humbug cordially, pumping Milo's hand. "As guest of honor, you must choose the menu, of course." "Oh my," he thought, not knowing what to say. "Be quick about it," suggested the spelling bee. "I'm famished. Famished. As Milo tried to think, there was an ear-shattering blast of trumpets entirely off key, and a page announced to the startled guests, "King Azaz, the Unabridged." The king strode through the door and over to the table and settled his great bulk onto the throne, calling irritably, "Places, everyone, take your places." He was the largest man Milo had ever seen, with a great stomach, large piercing eyes, a gray beard that reached to his waist, and a silver signet ring on the little finger of his left hand. He also wore a small crown and robe with letters of the alphabet beautifully embroidered all over it. There he is, King Azaz, the Unabridged. "What have we here?" he said, staring down at Talk and Milo as everyone else took his place. "If you please," said Milo. "My name is Milo, and this is Talk. Thank you very much for inviting us to your banquet. I think your palace is beautiful." "Exquisite," corrected the Duke. "Lovely," counseled the minister. "Handsome," commented the Count. "Pretty," hinted the Earl. "Charming," submitted the Undersecretary. "Silence," suggested the King. "Now, young man, what can you do to entertain us? Sing songs, tell stories, compose sonnets, juggle plates, do tumbling tricks? Which is it?" "I can't do any of those things," admitted Milo. "What an ordinary little boy," commented the King. "Why, my cabinet members can do all sorts of things. The Duke here can make mountains out of molehills. The minister can split hairs. The Count makes hay while the sun shines. The Earl leaves no stone unturned. And the Undersecretary," he finished ominously, "hangs by a thread." "Can't you do anything at all?" "I can count to 1,000, offered Milo. Ugh, numbers. Never mention numbers here. Only use them when we absolutely have to, growled Azaz disgustedly. Now, why don't you and Top come up here and sit next to me and we'll have some dinner? Are you ready with the menu? He reminded the humbug. Well, said Milo, remembering that his mother always told him to eat lightly when he was a guest, why don't we have a light meal? A light meal it shall be, roared the bug, waving his arms. Uh-oh, let's see what happens now. The waiter rushed in carrying large serving platters and set them on the table in front of the king. When he lifted the covers, brilliant shafts of brilliant colored light leaped from the plates and bounded around the ceiling, the walls, across the floor, and out the windows. Not a very substantial meal, said the humbug, rubbing his eyes, but quite an attractive one. Perhaps you can suggest something a little more filling. The king clapped his hands, and the platters were removed, and without thinking, Milo quickly suggested, well, in that case, I think we ought to have a square meal. A square meal it is, shouted the humbug again. The king clapped his hands once more, and the waiters appeared carrying plates heaped high with steaming squares of all sizes and colors. Ugh, said the spelling bee, tasting one. These are awful. No one else seemed to like them very much either. The humbug got one caught in his throat and almost choked. Time for the speeches, announced the king as the plates were again removed and everyone looked glum. You first, he commanded, pointing to Milo. Your Majesty, ladies and gentlemen, Milo started timidly. I would like to take this opportunity to say that in all the... That's quite enough, snapped the king. Mustn't talk all day. But I'd just begun, objected Milo. Next, bellowed the king. Roast turkey, mashed potatoes, vanilla ice cream, recited the humbug, bouncing up and down quickly. What a strange speech, thought Milo, for he'd heard many in the past and knew that they were supposed to be long and dull. Hamburgers, corn on the cob, chocolate pudding, pudding, said the spelling bee in his turn. Frankfurters, sour pickles, strawberry jam, offered Officer Shrift from his chair. Since he was taller sitting than standing, he didn't bother to get up. And so down the line it went, with each guest rising briefly, making a short speech, and then resuming his place. When everyone had finished, the king rose. Pâté de foie gras, soupe de l'oignon, faisson sous cloche, salad endive, fromages et fruits et demi-tasse, he said carefully and clapping his hands. The waiter reappeared immediately, carrying heavy hot trays which they set on the table. Everyone contained the exact words spoken by the various guests, and they all began eating immediately with great gusto. Now we're going to see next time why they were just listing foods for their speeches. We'll resume Chapter 7 next time.